Hello and welcome to Driver's Therapy. In today's video, we're going to be doing something pretty cool. We're going to be adding this yellow tachometer gauge face to our already Stu Hagen modified gauge cluster for the Toyota Supra. Now my Supra is black on black on black, and I really wanted to break that up, so I think this is going to be really neat. So in this video, we're going to be showing you how to remove your gauge cluster step by step, and then after that, I'm going to be adding the yellow gauge face, and we'll go from there. All right, let's get started. We're going to remove this trim piece up here, and there is 5 screws, so let's go ahead and get them out. Now we could pull this out, and there's going to be some connectors right here. 1, 2, 3, and this trim piece is out. And now we're going to remove this screw from the center part. Ejectocito button. We're going to remove this ashtray. You pull up and you pull out. Next, we're going to remove this trim bezel. We're going to pull up on the e-brake, and we're going to pull up on these tabs, and they come up. And you don't have to do this, but it helps out. I like to put the key in, move the shifter. For you cool guys with those manual transmissions, you can just put the shift lever down, or you could unscrew the knob and get more room like that. And there's 2 small connectors. 1 and 2. And the trim piece is out. So besides putting the key in, what we could do is we're gonna remove this little tab here. It just comes out like that. And then at that point in time, I believe we just stick something in there and you can move it back without putting a key in. Okay, let's continue removing this. So at this point, there's a lot of stuff that's connected electrical wise. So for me, I have a boost gauge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to disconnect that first back here. Okay, if you guys look back here by the AC control unit, there's a couple of orange plugs, and when you remove those, the airbag indicator on your lights little area up here will stay on, and I will put in a description how you could take that off. So these are a little hard to get out, so let's go ahead and okay, we got one out. They really are a pain. All right. And then we have a connector down here for the traction control. And at this point, we have our trim piece off. Okay, now we're going to take off this trim that goes to the gauge cluster. And we're going to be removing this screw right here. And we have another screw over here. And now I'm going to take these center screws from the gauge cluster. So we're going to take this screw out as well. We're going to be removing this left trim. I do have an LED controller that is connected to the gauge cluster to reduce the brightness additionally to what it came with. And I'm just going to set it down. And we're now going to be removing the gauge cluster. You want to be careful because there's some connectors back here. So, all right, now we're going to remove these cables. Simply push out, and you do want to be careful. So I've got two, and then there's going to be one more back here. It's kind of a hard angle for you guys to see. Let me see if I can, right there. And then I do have an extra LED controller here, or dimmer. So our gauge cluster is out. Okay, now we're going to be removing and disassembling some of this gauge cluster. And one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to remove this lens cover thing. So let's go ahead and do that. Looks like it's pretty straightforward. You have tabs down here, you push down. You want to do a few so you can get them started. We have the lens cover off. And now we're going to remove this black bezel, kind of the same thing. We're going to be pushing down on these tabs. And we have the black piece off. And now we're going to be removing this needle. The needles on the gauge cluster and on the tachometer are calibrated. And essentially what happens is if you remove them or you modify them, an individual could bench test the gauge cluster and put an artificial signal for an RPM specification. And at that point in time, they could adjust the needles so they have a calibrated setup. Now, this is why I recommend you to record, to make a mark, or to try your best to keep that needle where it's at, or put it back the way that it was. If you don't, I was actually able to find a clever way how to get mine back where it was. I actually was kind of excited about that. But again, if you're using one of those bench test machines, it's probably going to be extremely accurate. Mine, I mean, I know what my car idles at, and I know pretty much how it runs. So I think I did a good job on it to help out. Be gentle and just and it popped right up. It looks like there's some double-sided sticky tape in order to remove these, so I'm just going to do it gently. One side came up. Another side came up. See if we could replicate that over here. Got another one. We have one more side to go. And the face is off. And I was correct. There was some double-sided sticky tape on there. But I think we got it off. Now, one of the first things we're going to do with our new face is we're going to flip it around. And we're going to add the needle stopper on here. And we're just going to simply put that down here. Just like that. Press it down. Then we're going to add some tape. I'm going to push the tape down around it so it stays. And I think we're good. Okay, we have our needle stopper in. Now we have to add double-sided tape to these two areas. If we look at the old gauge face, we're going to go ahead and copy that. I'm going to flip that around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place my tape away from the opening where the LEDs emit through. So I'm going to put it right here. Okay, and I think think we should be ready to install it. We're going to go ahead and gently place everything. We do have some guidelines right here, or some guiding points right here. And I do have some double-sided tape. Now, there's some right here and some right here, so hopefully that will still work. And we're just going to press down. And that's in there. And now we're going to add our needle. I just press down on it. Okay, let's go ahead and start putting everything back together. I'm just going to slide this over again. Trying to be careful with everything, but we do have some guides. I do like how Toyota made this. I mean, they really helped us out. And it seems like everything just clicks in there nicely. Look at that so far. Isn't that cool? I think it really gives it a lot of character. Okay, let's finish up. So we're just gonna put this in here. Again, Toyota made it really easy for us because just align these tabs, push down, just make sure you hear that nice, satisfying click. Okay. And now we're gonna go ahead and install it in the car and go look at it when it's completely done. All right. So when I went to go start the car and I put the key in, the needle jumped up to 3,000 RPMs without the car even running. So I knew something wasn't right. So I went for a drive and the RPMs were off by about 2,100 RPMs or so. So then I came home and I started to figure out how to fix it. And I realized that when you put the key in, it jumps up right away to around 3,000 RPMs. So I know that before you put the key in, you know, the needle stays at 0 and then you start the car. So what I did is I took apart the little clear protector part, and I was able to get to it pretty easy by just removing the 5-screw panel on the top and then removing a screw off the right one and then removing a screw off of the left one here. And I just kind of let that hang. And I navigated the clear part out, and then I just removed the needle, and then I put the key on. With the key on and the needle removed, I was able to just put the needle on it, and then I turned the car on, and at that point in time, it idled at 800 RPMs, where I know my car idles at. And so I knew it was good to go. That looks about right. All right, guys. Here it is. It's all reinstalled and it looks awesome. It adds so much character to the car. I love it. And it looks good, and I can't ask for any more. Well, guys, if you have any questions or any comments, leave them below. And thank you for watching the channel and the video.